still Mark Higgins?
Yes.
Excuse me. Oh, okay, just go ahead and spell Sam, Steve. Thank you. Also, don't forget, board members, when you have to make a motion, always state your full name before a motion and before seconding a motion, just for the record. Okay. These folks unmuted, and I hear some background.
I'll mute everybody.
All right. That. I still hear a little background noise. Maybe it's just you and me, Kim. I don't know. You muted everything.
Yeah, and then I unmuted me, and that might have just been a little bit of conflict.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's not terrible. So, Mike, you can let us know when we can get started when you're recording. Okay. Perfect. So you can go ahead and start the recording. All right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am Clarissa Rodriguez, Chair of the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Due to the coronavirus pandemic and state regulations on social distancing, today's board meeting is being conducted remotely from various locations throughout the state of New York. This meeting is also being webcast live for members of the public. Board members, please be reminded that there is a slight pause in audio transmission. Also, please state your full name each time you speak. Now, I have the honor of calling the 991st meeting of the board to order. Madam Secretary, will you please call attendance?
Yes, Madam Chair. Vice Chair Foster.
Here.
Board Member Peprocki. Board Member Peprocki. Seems I can see Board Member Peprocki, but I cannot hear any sound. We'll come back to that. Board Member Higgins. Clarissa, you're on mute. Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, my apologies. Yes, Kim, maybe you can go ahead and unmute them, see if that works.
Okay. Board Member Peprocki. Board Member Peprocki. Board Member Higgins. Board Member Higgins.
Board Member Higgins present. Board Member Higgins present.
Board Member Logan. Board Member Logan.
Board Member Logan here.
Board Member Williams. Board Member Williams.
Board Member Williams here.
Board Member Hull.
Board Member Hull here.
Board Member Ostley.
Board Member Ostley here.
Board Member Crane.
Board Member Crane here.
Board Member Stasko.
Board Member Stasko here.
Board Member Taveras. I believe she's absent. I don't see her present on the screen. Board Member Caginelli.
Board Member Canginelli here.
Board Member Delon.
Board Member Delon present.
And Board Member Peprocki.
Present.
Chair, we have 12 members present today. Board Member Taveras is absent.
Okay. Will everyone else please mute yourself? Kim went ahead and unmuted everyone, so apologies. Just everyone please mute them. Thank you. Also, may I have a motion to approve the absence of Board Member Tavares?
This is Board Member Stephen Crane. I move to approve the absence of Board Member Tavares.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Crane. Is there a second?
This is Board Member Martin Delan, and I second the motion.
Okay, thank you so much, Board Member Delan. Is there any opposition to the motion? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, all board members, please say aye if you approve.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you very much. That motion is passed. Secretary Kim McCarroll, who else is present in the meeting today?
Well, we have General Counsel David Wertheim, Special Counsel Elizabeth Lott, Advocate for Injured Worker Joe Cavacani, Advocate for Business Neil Gilberg. I see our Public Information Officer Melissa Stewart, our Media Services Representative Michael Guilford. Sorry, Michael. Natasha Carbajal Evangelista, our Deputy Director. Patrick Cremo, Supervising Attorney. And Executive Director Steve Smith. Mary Beth Wood, Executive Director. And Talani Alemad, Assistant to, I believe, Natasha. And special guest, Zeev Kimmel and Jeremy Addy from NYSERB. I hope I got everybody.
Yes, thank you so much, Kim, and welcome everyone. Okay, now on to our agenda. Agenda item 1, approval of the July 21st, 2020 meeting minutes. You have all, board members, you have all received a copy of the July 21, 2020 meeting minutes for your review. Are there any questions or need for discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
This is Board Member Stephen Crane. I move to approve the July 21, 2020 board meeting minutes.
Thank you, Board Member. Is there a second?
Hi, this is Board Member Martin Delan, and Madam Chair, I second the motion.
Thank you very much, Board Member Swan. Is there any opposition? Okay, hearing none, we will do a roll call vote for our records. Thank you. Go ahead, Madam Secretary.
Board Member Osley,
Yes.
Board Member Caginelli,
Yes.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member Delan,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hull,
Yes.
Board Member Loban,
Yes.
Board Member Pepraki,
Yes.
Board Member Stasko,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
and Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
That motion is passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you so much. Agenda item 2, Office of General Counsel's Departmental Report. General Counsel David Wertheim will now present the statistical and informational report for July and August. Welcome, David.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, and distinguished colleagues. Here is a report for the resolution of issues at the board for the months of July and August. First, with respect to hearings held, in July, 13,794 regular hearings, 9,219 issues were resolved fully at the hearing, and 377 reserved decisions were issued. In August, 14,865 regular hearings, 9,283 issues fully resolved at the hearing, and 430 reserved decisions issued. With respect to waiver agreements, in July, there were 1,547 waiver agreements approved, 1,470 through the hearing process, and 77 in desk review upon mutual agreement of the parties. In August, there were 1,828 waiver agreements approved, 1,764 through the hearing process, 64 on the desk review process. Administrative Review Division, in terms of applications for administrative review, in July, 1,053 were received, 1,138 were processed, leaving an inventory at end of July of 2,491. And in August, 860 received, 898 processed, leaving an inventory at end of August of 2,451, with 94% of applications processed within 6 months of the application. With respect to full board review, in July, there were 146 applications for full board review received, 159 were processed, leaving an inventory of 183. And in August, 125 were received, 136 were processed, leaving an inventory at the end of August of 172. That concludes the statistical and informational report. And of course, I would take any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions or need for discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I please have a motion to accept the report?
Madam Chair, this is Board Member Stephen Crane. I move to accept the statistical and informational report of the Office of General Counsel.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Martin DeLon, and I second the motion.
Okay, thank you so much, Board Member Delon. Is there addition? Okay, Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Osili,
Yes.
Board Member Caginelli,
Yes.
Board Member Crane, Board Member Crane,
Yes. Yes.
thank you. Board Member DeLon,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins, Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hull,
Yes.
Board Member Loban,
Yes.
Board Member Peprocki,
Yes.
Board Member Stasko,
Yes.
Board Member Williams, hang on, Sam. Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
that motion is passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 3, license applications. Elizabeth Lott, Special Counsel of the Office of General Counsel, will now present any licensing applications.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Rodriguez, Vice Chair Foster, board members, colleagues, and guests. You have before you the recommendations from the assigned board panel regarding licensing applications listed in Part 3 of today's agenda. Section 24A, Marjorie C. Frashone, 3-year renewal. Section 53B, NCA Comp Inc., 3-year renewal. Section 53D, Larkin Benefit Administrators of New York, Inc., 3-year renewal. Creative Risk Solutions, LLC, 3-year renewal. Emerald Claims Management of New York, LLC. The panel recommends a hold to the October board meeting. I present these recommendations to the board for your consideration.
Okay, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Are there any questions or need for discussion? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to accept the recommendations of the panel? May I have a motion from one of our board members?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Stephen Crane. I move to accept the recommendations of the panels as presented.
Thank you very much for that. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, this is Board Member Martin Delan, and I second that motion.
Okay, thank you so much for respond. Is there any opposition? Okay, Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Yes. Board Member Osili,
Yes.
Board Member Cajanelli,
Yes.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member Delan, Board Member Delan. Was that yes, Board Member Delan?
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Higgins? Board Member Higgins?
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Hall?
Yes.
Board Member Loban?
Yes.
Board Member Peprocki?
Yes.
Board Member Stasko?
Yes.
Board Member Williams? Board Member Williams?
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
That motion is passed unanimously.
Thank you so much. Agenda item 4, legal appeals. General Counsel David Wertheim will now present the recommendations concerning decisions by the Appellate Division.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. From the time of the July board meeting until today, the Appellate Division 3rd Department has issued 10 decisions with respect to workers' compensation claims set forth at item 4A through J of your agenda. In those 10 decisions, 8 were affirmances, 1 appeal was dismissed, and 1 was a reversal. It's the recommendation of General Counsel that all of the decisions of the court be adopted as decisions of the board.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to accept the recommendations of the Office of General Counsel?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Stephen Crane. I move to accept the recommendations of the Office of General Counsel.
Thank you so much, Board Member Crane. Is there a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Member Martin Delan, and I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Board Member. Is there any opposition? Okay, Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Yes. Board Member Osili?
Yes.
Board Member Cajanelli?
Yes.
Board Member Crane?
Yes.
Board Member Delan?
Yes.
Board Member Higgins?
Yes.
Board Member Hall?
Yes.
Board Member Logan?
Yes.
Board Member Peprocki,
Yes.
Board Member Stasko,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
that motion is passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 5, mandatory full board review. We start with case 5A, JP Morgan Chase, case number G11166661. Is there a motion with respect to 5A on the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Lauren Loban, and I would recommend that the majority opinion be adopted as the opinion of the full board.
Thank you so much, board member. Is there,
Madam Chair, this is Board Member Martin Delan, and I second the motion.
thank you very much, board member Delan. Are there any recusals in this matter? Okay, is there any opposition to the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, there is opposition. This is Board Member Caginelli.
Thank you, board member Caginelli. In light of the opposition, I call upon the secretary for a roll call vote.
Board Member Osili,
Yes.
Board Member Caginelli,
No.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member Delan,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Board Member Logan,
Yes.
Board Member Peprocki,
Yes.
Board Member Stasko,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
that motion is carried 11-1.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. 5B, Coca-Cola Refreshments USA Incorporated, case number G16303071. Is there a motion with respect to 5B on the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Stephen Crane. I move that the majority opinion be adopted as the opinion of the full board.
Thank you, board member Crane. Is there a second?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is Board Member Sam Williams. I second the motion.
Thank you, board member Williams. Are there any recusals in this matter? Okay, hearing none. Is there any opposition to the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Ellen Peprocki, and there is opposition.
Okay, thank you, board member Peprocki. Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Osili,
No.
Board Member Caginelli,
No.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member Delan,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Member Loban,
Yes.
Board Member Peprocki,
No.
Board Member Stasko,
No.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
that motion is carried 8-4.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Secretary. Now, 5C, Macy's Corporate Services Incorporated, case number G1444584. Is there a motion with respect to 5C on the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Ellen Peprocki, and I would move that the dissenting opinion be adopted as the opinion of the full board.
Thank you, Board Member Paprocki. Is there a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Mark Stasko. I second that motion.
Thank you, Board Member Stasko. Are there any recusals in this matter? Okay, is there any opposition to the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Stephen Crane. There is opposition to the motion.
Thank you, Board Member Crane. Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Yes, ma'am. Board Member Osili,
Yes.
Board Member Caginelli,
Yes.
Board Member Crane,
No.
Board Member Delan,
No.
Board Member Higgins, Board Member Higgins,
No.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Board Member Loban,
Yes.
Board Member Peprocki,
Yes.
Board Member Stasko,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
No.
Vice Chair Foster,
No.
Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
That motion is carried 7-5.
Okay, thank you. 5D, Gangska Walsh, JV, case number G2569489. Is there a motion with respect to 5D on the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Stephen Crane. I move that the majority opinion be adopted as the opinion of the full board.
Thank you, Board Member Crane. Is there a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Sam Williams, and I second the motion.
Thank you, Board Member Williams. Does anyone need to be recused from this matter? Okay, is there any opposition to the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Ellen Peprocki. There is opposition.
Thank you, Board Member Paprocki. Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Osili,
No.
Board Member Caginelli,
No.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member Delan,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
No.
Board Member Loban,
Yes.
Board Member Peprocki,
No.
Board Member Stasko,
No.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
That motion is carried 7-5.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. 5E, CIDNY Center for Independence, case number G2369162. Is there a motion with respect to 5E on the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Sam Williams, and I move that the majority opinion be adopted as the opinion of the full board.
Thank you, Board Member Williams. Is there a second? Does anyone second the motion?
I second the motion. This is Lauren Loban.
Thank you, Board Member Loban. Are there any recusals in this matter? Okay, hearing none, is there any opposition to the
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Pam Canjanelli, and there is opposition.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Ketchum. Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Osili,
No.
Board Member Cajanelli,
No.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member DeLon,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hull,
No.
Board Member Lo,
Yes.
Board Member Pebraki,
Yes. I'm sorry, no.
Board Member Stasko,
No.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
that motion is carried 7-5.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. 5F, Top Rock Interiors, case number G1402072. Is there a motion with respect to 5F on the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. This is Board Member Mark Higgins, and I move that the opinion of the majority be adopted as the opinion of the full board.
Thank you, Board Member Higgins. Is there a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Sam Williams, and I second that motion.
Thank you, Board Member Williams. Are there any recusals in this matter? Okay. Hearing none, is there any opposition to the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Frederick Horsley. There is opposition to this motion.
Thank you, Board Member Osling. Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Osili,
No.
Board Member Cajanelli,
Yes.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member DeLon,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hull,
Yes.
Board Member Lobin,
Yes.
Board Member Pebraki,
Yes.
Board Member Stasko,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
that motion is carried 11-1.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. And finally, 5G, Suffolk County Police Department, case number 40700904. Is there a motion with respect to 5G on the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Ellen Peprocki. I would move that the dissenting opinion be adopted as the opinion of the full board.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Paprocki. Is there a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Mark Stasko, and I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Stasko. Are there any recusals in this matter? Hearing none, is there any opposition to the motion? Okay, hearing none. Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Osili,
Yes.
Board Member Cajanelli,
Yes.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member DeLon,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Board Member Lobin,
Yes.
Board Member Pebraki,
Yes.
Board Member Stasko,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
That motion is carried unanimously.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Secretary. All right, on to agenda item 6, our cases for discretionary full board review. Now I turn this portion of the agenda over to Vice Chair Foster. Vice Chair Foster, you're muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the cases listed in item 6 on your agenda, it's been recommended that full board review be granted. Those cases are 6A, matter of Con Edison, 6B, matter of Via Transportation, 6C, matter of City of Schenectady, 6D, matter of Carrier Industries, 6E, matter of Timco Services, 6F, matter of Land Productions, Inc., and 6G, matter of New York City Human Resources Authority, HAU. I move to refer the cases back to the respective panels for further consideration.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, this is Board Member Martin Delon, and I second that motion.
Thank you, Board Member Delan. Does anyone need to be recused from any of these cases?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Board Member Lauren Loban, and I would like to be recused from 6A, 6C, and 6D. I will vote affirmatively in 6B, 6E, 6F, and 6G. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Duly noted, Board Member Loban. Is there any opposition to the motion? Hearing no opposition, Madam Secretary, may I please have a roll call vote?
Board Member Osili,
Yes.
Board Member Cashinelli,
Yes.
Board Member Crane,
Yes.
Board Member Delon,
Yes.
Board Member Higgins,
Yes.
Board Member Hall,
Yes.
Board Member Loban,
Yes, for the ones indicated.
Board Member Peprocki,
Yes.
Board Member Stasko,
Yes.
Board Member Williams,
Yes.
Vice Chair Foster,
Yes.
Chair Rodriguez.
Yes.
That motion is passed unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary and Vice Chair Foster.
Thank you.
Agenda items, any other business?
Chair, I think I would like to note for the record that the verbatim reporter today is Karen Hayes. I missed that at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. All right. Hearing no other business, we'll move on to our most important business of today, agenda item 8, which is our special guests, Jeremy Addy and Zeev Kimmel of the New York Compensation Insurance Ratings Board. They will be presenting their annual report today. So I'm pleased to welcome these two special guests from SERB, Jeremy, like I said, a president, and Zeev Kimmel, senior vice president and chief actuary. Now, before I turn it over to give you a little background on these impressive guys. First, Jeremy. He joined NYSERB as president-elect in late February 2016 and assumed the position as president that July. Prior to joining the rating board, Jeremy served on the office of the New York State Governor from 2012 to 2016, most recently as assistant counsel to the governor for labor and financial services. Now, prior to joining the governor's office, Jeremy was a litigator in a New York City law firm. He is a graduate of Cornell University and Brooklyn Law School. Welcome, Jeremy. And Zeev Kimmel joined the rating board in 2008 as Director of Actuarial Research and was named Senior Vice President and Chief Actuary in 2016. Z started his career in 1997 as an actuarial analyst at ISO, where he worked on commercial property pricing. He joined the National Council on Compensation Insurance in 2001, where he worked on legislative analysis, medical cost research, and state rate filings. He's a fellow of the Casualty Actuarial Society and member of the American Academy of Actuaries. He earned his BA in mathematics from Queens College in 1997. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. So I am Jeremy Addy. I'm the president and CEO of the New York Compensation Insurance Rating Board. I'd like to do a quick introduction before turning it over to Zeev. For those of you who are not familiar with the Rating Board, we are a private nonprofit association licensed by the New York State Department of Financial Services to serve as the rate service organization for workers' compensation insurance in New York State. And what this means is that all insurance carriers who write workers' compensation insurance in the state are our members and provide data to us. We use that data to provide services to the marketplace, develop a loss cost recommendation for the Superintendent of Financial Services each year, maintain all workers' compensation related manuals, which are the rule books for writing workers' compensation policies in New York, maintain all class codes, develop cost analyses of legislative and regulatory changes in the system, as well as conduct research and perform market conduct functions. Now, in 2020, we continue to perform all these functions in the midst of a global pandemic that's brought significant uncertainty to an industry that relies on historical experience to make future projections. So as we think about that, there are a lot of questions that remain unanswered. How many workers will contract COVID-19? How many will file workers' comp claims? Which claims will be compensable? To what degree has the stay-at-home order impacted claim frequency? When will a vaccine be available? Will most people take it? What will the workplace look like in 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years? And with early data offering limited guidance, the Rating Board has been making significant efforts to prepare for what will likely be an extended period of uncertainty. Importantly, we are putting ourselves in a position to serve the industry in a way that is faithful to our vision, which is to serve as the objective and trusted thought leader in the New York State workers' compensation marketplace. And this vision moves well beyond the numbers crunch of lost cost filings and into finding the stories in the data and relaying those stories in a way that's accessible to everyone. We believe that you shouldn't have to be an insurance expert or an actuary to understand the system and marketplace. And to realize our vision, we have been remaking ourselves. We are changing how we work, how we interact with our stakeholders, and how we view our role in the marketplace. And our vision brings 3 important objectives into view that I just want to share with you today. First, we are focused on developing a productive partnership with our regulators. What does this mean? It means that when we interact with our regulators, it won't be with our hands out asking for something. Rather, we want to lend our expertise and make sure that our regulators understand the most recent market data and research and are in the best position to regulate the marketplace and community. Second, we've begun to leverage our repository of data to produce thought-provoking research and reports regularly and often for our regulators in the broader workers' compensation community. You will see today the latest of our efforts in this regard. Zeev Kimmel, the Rating Board's chief actuary, will present an abbreviated 2020 State of the System report, the full version of which was just released last week and provides vital statistics in the marketplace. Last week, we also released a 2020 frequency study, and in June of 2020, we released a COVID-19 study. Our body of research has been growing since 2016. We've released a motor vehicle accident study, a medical payment study, a drug study, a large claim study, and a regional study. We've also recently participated in a multi-jurisdictional study on mega claims. All of our research papers are publicly available on our website. Finally, we've begun to engage the state's workers' compensation community. Beginning in September of 2017, we hold annual forums and invite representatives from all stakeholder groups to attend and present our latest research and reports. Our forums provide stakeholders with an opportunity to get together, listen to one another, and hopefully develop working relationships and dialogues. Because we believe that when we understand each other, we move forward together. While our 2020 forum was held virtually, we hope that future forums will once again be in-person events, and we look forward to that. And those events will be open and free to the entire community. In the meantime, all of our 2020 forum presentations are available for viewing on our website. So in conclusion, we want your feedback. Maintaining a productive partnership with our stakeholders is central to our vision, and we want to know how we can be helpful. So either at the end of the discussion today or in the days that follow, please be in touch and let us know what you think and how we can help. Our time is limited today, so without further ado, I'd like to turn the floor over to Zeev Kimmel, the Rating Board's Chief Actuary, for the presentation of the 2020 State of the System Report. It's over to you, Zeev.
Thank you, Jeremy, and good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I hope everybody can see it. And I'm going to start the presentation. Can folks see the screen, State of the System?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Good. Thank you. So welcome to the 2020 State of the System presentation. Many of the results and figures that I'm going to share with you today are based on data that is fairly recent. However, some of it may be perceived as old news, given the new reality we all found ourselves living through these past several months. But the data I'll present to you today is still very relevant. This is the moment in time with the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And we want to use the latest statistics as a benchmark to compare how things changed. We want to understand where things were before the pandemic so that we can compare that against what we'll see in the future in the post-pandemic environment. It's also important to understand how we got to this point in terms of the 2020 loss cost filing and some of the changes we made this year. So let's get to it, and we'll start with some key figures. And I'd like to focus your attention on two key figures. First, the negative 1% indication displayed on the upper left side of the slide. This approval represents the fifth straight year that the Department of Financial Services approved the loss cost change recommended by the Rating Board's Actuarial Committee. We'll discuss the loss cost filing in more detail later. The second key figure I'd like to point out is on the lower right-hand corner. It's the calendar year combined ratio of 81.8%. The calendar year combined ratio measures the ratio of losses, expenses, and dividends to premiums based on transactions occurring in a particular calendar year. It is the second year in a row with a combined ratio in the low 80s and a historic low result. So here's the agenda, some of the topics we're going to cover today. As I mentioned, I'll go into some of the detail of the loss cost filing and discuss some changes in methodology that the Rating Board implemented this past year. I will then address the issues associated with COVID-19 and the impact of the pandemic on the loss cost filing. I will share some very preliminary statistics related to the pandemic and its effects on the workers' compensation system. I will then proceed to discuss some premiums and market share statistics, and we'll conclude with some loss statistics. We'll start with the loss cost filing. In July, the New York State Department of Financial Services approved the Rating Board's actuarially recommended negative 1% average loss cost change, ensuring that loss costs in the New York State system remain at adequate levels. Here we have a historical perspective of loss costs and rate level changes, with the blue bars representing rate changes. And in October of 2008, we moved to a loss cost system, which are represented by the purple bars. Interestingly, over the past 20 years, the cumulative change, represented by the yellow line, is a decrease of 4.6%. This means that, on average, workers' compensation premium rates are 4.6% lower than they were back in 2001. You can see that the 2020 approval is the fourth consecutive decrease, following the 4.5% decrease in 2017, and two consecutive double-digit decreases in 2018 and 2019. But if we focus for a moment on the right side of this exhibit, you could see that from 2016 to 2019, the loss cost level in the state has been relatively volatile, with a more than a 9% increase in 2016, which was then followed by these significant decreases. We have some volatility. And in a minute, I'll discuss some of the changes we made in the filing process to control for some of that volatility. So let's discuss the loss cost filing process and the steps we take to derive the overall indication. So there are several components to the loss cost filing. First, experience. In this component, we look at the latest 2 policy years of available data and measure how losses compare to premium. In the trend section, we want to see how these measures, namely premium and losses, are projected to change over time from the experience period to the prospective filing period. To that, we add benefit level changes, which primarily result from changes in the maximum weekly benefit, and the projected change in loss adjustment expenses to bring us to the overall indication. We're going to take a deeper look into the experience and trend components. We're going to start with experience. For the experience section, we examine how premiums and losses compare. The latest 2 policy years for which we have complete data are 2017 and 2018, and all the data is valued as of December 31st, 2019. For each of these years, we're looking at both incurred loss amounts, which include payments and case reserves, and we also perform a separate analysis looking at paid losses only. Prior to this year's filing, our loss cost level analysis focused on incurred amounts only. Averaging the incurred and paid indication is intended to protect ourselves from overreacting to sudden changes in reserving practices or in settlement rates that may be more temporary. The blue bars represent the premium amounts for the 2 policy years. The reported premium amounts are at the loss cost level, so they do not include the effects of loss cost multipliers. They are also adjusted to the level of the current loss cost because really what we're trying to measure is the adequacy of the current loss cost level. The red bars represent total reported loss amounts for the 2 policy years on an incurred basis and on a paid basis. These loss amounts are valued as of December 31st, 2019. We know, however, that regardless of whether we look at paid or incurred loss amounts, the value of claims changes over time as they develop until they reach ultimate value. So we have to adjust the reported losses to estimate what their ultimate value would be. And we do that by applying a development factor, which is based on a historical pattern of how loss valuations changed over time. So we're going to start with the incurred loss indication for 2017. And we're going to apply the development factor to the losses and to bring those losses to ultimate level. And now we have one estimate of ultimate losses in the red and yellow column, but we actually have another estimate of ultimate losses represented by the blue column. It's technically the premium column, but since these are premiums at loss cost level, it actually represents an additional estimate of ultimate losses, the ultimate losses that are underlying the current premium. So to promote stability, we take a weighted average of the red and yellow loss estimate with the blue loss estimate to derive the green loss estimate. The green loss estimate is what we're going to use to derive the indication. And the experience indication for policy year 2017, based on incurred losses, is the difference between the blue column, representing premium, and the green column, representing our estimated ultimate losses. And in this case, an increase of 1.7%. We then perform the same analysis, but this time we just utilize the paid loss information we developed the reported paid losses to ultimate level, averaging the two loss estimates to derive the green loss estimate. And now the indication based on paid losses for 2017 is an increase of 3.6%. So the average indication for policy year 2017 is the average of the paid indication and the incurred indication, or plus 2.7%. We do the exact same thing for policy year 2018. After employing our procedure, the incurred loss indication for policy year 2018 is plus 1.4%, and the paid loss indication for policy year 2018 is plus 1.9%, for an average of plus 1.7%. So our experience indication for 2017 is plus 2.7%. The experience indication for 2018 is plus 1.7%. And the average experience indication for the two policy years is plus 2.2%. So we're going to go ahead and plug that in for the experience component. Let's talk about trend. For the 2020 filing, which has an effective date of October 1st, 2020, we used experience information from policy years 2017 and 2018. We have to remember, though, that we're not trying to determine what the loss cost should have been back in 2017 and 2018. We're trying to determine what the appropriate loss cost level should be in the future for policies that will be written starting in October of 2020, but also for policies that will be written in September of 2021, which will remain in effect until September of 2022. So we know our starting point is plus 2.2%, but we need to determine how the measures of premiums and losses are projected to change from the experience period until the prospective filing period, which is what we refer to as trend. A trend period really spans 3.25 years, from the midpoint of the experience period of policy years 2017 and 2018 to the midpoint of the prospective filing period, which starts October 1st, 2020 and ends September of 2022. So let's take a look at the different components of the trend factor, which are indemnity severity, medical severity, claim frequency, and wages. We'll start with indemnity severity. We'll begin with the blue line representing actual indemnity average cost per case over the past 5 policy years. The black line represents the valuation date of the reported data. Based on the observed pattern of indemnity severity, we can tell that at least through the latest point of known data, indemnity severity is increasing at this projected rate, about 4.1% per year. However, from this point forward, we're not using the same growth rate. Instead, we're using a growth rate of a selected index. And for indemnity severity, the most appropriate index is wages, because indemnity benefits are a function of wages. So here, the red line represents the wages, which are consistently increasing over time. And the purple line is the projected increase in wages. And in this case, the projected rate of increase in wages is very similar to the increase that we see for the wage line. But we're going to go ahead and use the rate of increase in wages from the index, from the latest point of known data to the midpoint of the prospective filing period as the estimate of future changes in indemnity severity. Let's examine medical severity. Similarly, the blue line represents medical severity, or average medical cost per lost time claim. Over the most recent 5 policy years, although we notice some volatility, overall we observe a slightly decreasing pattern. So we project that from the experience period to the latest point of known data, there will be a small decrease at a rate of about 0.2% per year. For medical severity, we use a different index called the Chain-Weighted Personal Healthcare Index. It's published by CMS, and studies have shown that it is a pretty good reflection of the services that are performed in the workers' compensation system. This index has been steadily increasing at a very consistent rate, and the projection is that it will continue to do so. And using the same approach, we project that from the latest point of known data to the midpoint of the prospective filing period, medical severity will move at the same rate as the index. For claim frequency, which is the number of lost time claims per $1 million of premium, we use the same methodology as we did in the past. We don't have an index to tie it to. Claim frequency has been decreasing very consistently at a rate of 0.9% per year, and we project that it will continue to decrease at the same rate. Here, the red line represents wages, and as you can see, again, they are increasing at a rate of about 3% per year. So over the trend period, or 3.25 years, wages are projected to increase by over 10%. More wages would bring in more premium. So just because wages are increasing, even if we don't touch the loss costs, premium volume in the state would increase. Now, if losses are increasing at the same pace as premium, then we don't need to make any further adjustment. If losses are increasing faster than premium, then we would need to adjust the loss costs higher. And if losses are increasing slower than premiums, we would need a downward adjustment. The blue line represents the loss ratio trend, which is really a combination of the frequency, indemnity severity, and medical severity. As you can see, it has experienced a decrease through 2016, but has increased since then. And this is our combined projection line after applying the trend projection methodology for the different components. We can see that it's also increasing, but at a lower rate than wages, which creates a gap at the midpoint of the prospective filing period and results in a trend factor of -4%. So we started with experience at plus 2.2%. This is the trend section. We add on plus 1% to account for the annual increase in maximum weekly benefits, and a small change of -0.1% in the loss adjustment expense provision. And putting everything together, we get -1%. Of course, as we were preparing the 2020 filing, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. We did not make any adjustments to reflect the potential impact of the pandemic because things are changing quickly and may affect the system in many different ways. The challenge is that we have different forces that could affect the loss cost level in different directions. For example, while the overall number of claims may decrease as a result of the economic downturn, premium volume is expected to decrease as well. Will the decrease in premium be the same, greater, or less than the decrease in claims? Similarly, there would be difficulties projecting the impact of the pandemic on average claim severities. Will claimants stay out of work longer due to the economic conditions? Will injured workers experience difficulty obtaining the necessary medical care? What would be the effect of telemedicine? How would the changing economy and the workforce affect claim frequency and severity? The rating board is continuing to study the effects of the pandemic on the workers' compensation system. That said, we do have some preliminary statistics on the rapidly changing workers' compensation claim environment, as well as some early information on COVID claims. First, let's take a look at the percentage difference in claims activity between 2019 and 2020. We see that in January and February, claim activity was relatively similar, with a decrease of about 5% in February. In March, the pandemic really hit New York. In mid-March, Governor Cuomo issued a stay-at-home order, putting New York on pause. This resulted in a significant decrease in claim activity, with March down by 24%. But this was just when New York was on pause for half of the month. April and May were full months with New York on pause. With the New York economy starting to reopen in June and July, the effects on claim activity is clear. Still down significantly from 2019, but not as much as in April and May, a decrease of 27% in June and 20% in July. In total, over the first half of 2020, claim activity is down about 24%. This is what we know so far, but we also know that there is a lot more that we don't know, such as the effect of the economic changes on workers' comp premiums. Clearly, there will be some sort of decrease due to layoffs, furloughs, etc., but it will be several months before we get the full information on premium changes so that the effect of the economic changes on loss costs and underwriting results can be estimated. Next, let's take a look at what we know so far about workers' compensation COVID claims. We start with the total number of known COVID infections. These are confirmed positive cases in New York. Let's narrow that down to the estimated number of COVID infections in people that are between the ages of 18 and 64. As of early August, we're about 305,000. Now let's take a look at the number of COVID workers' compensation claims. You can see it in the bottom of the screen, just over 11,000 as of early August, or just about 3.5% of positive cases in the working age population. While it may appear like a low percentage, there are a variety of reasons for that. According to the CDC, about 40% of cases are asymptomatic, and out of the symptomatic cases, only about 3.4% require hospitalization. So the vast majority of cases are either asymptomatic or relatively mild. Also, in order to receive workers' comp benefits, claimants will have to show that they contracted COVID at the workplace, and many possibly didn't. And those who may have contracted it at the workplace and do end up missing a limited amount of time from work may rely on other paid leave programs for income security instead of turning to the workers' comp system for relief. Either because they don't want the reduction in pay or they just don't want to go through the workers' comp system. With that in mind, let's discuss some other statistics on premiums and losses in New York from the pre-pandemic era. These various statistics are important to understand as they would serve as a benchmark to measure how they change between the pre- and post-pandemic eras. Premium volume in the state decreased from 5.9 billion in 2018 to 5.6 billion in 2019. This is really the first significant decrease in premium volume since 2008. Growth in payroll, as well as increase in loss costs, resulted in significant premium growth from 2010 until 2016, where loss costs stabilized. The recent significant decreases in the loss cost level are the primary driver of the decrease in 2019. Let's talk about classifications. This is a view of the top 10 governing classes in New York in terms of payroll. And not surprisingly, clerical office employees represent the largest class in terms of payroll. It is followed by hospitals, physicians, schools, and clerical service contractors. The top 10 classes by payroll represent 52% of the total statewide payroll, but only 17% of the standard premium. This is because some classes, such as the clerical office employees class, have very low loss costs and generate very little premium. In fact, when we rank the classes in terms of premium, the clerical office employee code doesn't even make it to the top 10. Hospitals generate more premiums than any other class. And interestingly, in the top 10, we have 3 classes in terms of premium volume that are from healthcare-related industries. And this points to the importance of the healthcare sector in workers' compensation and to the economy in general. Moving on to market share information. The New York State Fund is a competitive state fund and is not there strictly to serve the residual market as may be the case in some other jurisdictions. And the market share is often viewed as a measure of how competitive the market is. So this is a view of how the state fund market share has changed over time. And we know that after gradually increasing market share up to a high of 45.1 in 2014, we're observing 5 straight years of decreasing market shares down to a level of 35.5%, which is the lowest we've seen in quite some time. Now let's examine the distribution of policies by policy size. Most policies in the state, over 400,000, are relatively small policies with premium under $5,000. And despite the large number of these policies, representing more than 75% of all policies in the state, because of their smaller size, they only generate less than 6% of the total premium in the state. Larger policies represent a small portion of policies, but a significant portion of premiums. Policies with premium over $50,000 represent less than 5% of policies, but account for more than 75% of premium. We're going to shift gears and discuss some loss statistics. We're going to start with examining the distribution of claims and losses by injury type. And we observe that although medical-only claims account for almost 60% of claims, they are generally very small claims and represent only 2% of the total loss amounts. Fatal and permanent total claims don't happen often, but they still represent almost 6% of losses. Permanent partial claims are the most significant cost driver, accounting for almost 75% of the losses, even though they represent just under 20% of claims. These are the top 10 parts of body in terms of claim counts on the left and in terms of total losses on the right. It's interesting to know that injuries to certain parts of body are clearly more expensive than others. For example, shoulder injuries represent 9.3% of claim counts, but close to 15% of loss dollars. On the other hand, fingers and thumbs represent more than 12% of injuries, but just 3% of losses. Injuries to the lower back, knee, and shoulder represent the highest percentage of losses. Next, we're going to look at the distribution of medical costs, and the numbers over the next several slides are going to be from our medical data call, representing payments made for services performed in 2019. And we start with the overall distribution of 2019 medical payments into major medical cost categories. And we observed that physicians represented the largest medical payment category, with almost half the medical payments in 2019, which is followed by hospitals with 22% and prescription drugs at under 10%. Digging a little deeper into the largest category, which is physician costs, we see that in 2019, payments for surgical procedures represent just over a quarter of physician payments, followed by physical medicine, which represents an additional 25% of physician costs, and evaluation and management services at 18%. The physical medicine and evaluation and management percentages represent an increase from what we saw in 2018, which may be attributable, at least in part, to the changes in the state's medical fee schedule, which went into effect in April of 2019. I wanted to focus just for a few seconds on the ambulatory surgical centers category, as we examine the changes in the percentage of payments for ambulatory surgical centers over the past several years. There's a clear trend with continuous increases from 2.4% of total medical payments in 2011 to 7.9% in 2019. Let's take a closer look at prescription drugs. An examination of drug payments as a percentage of total medical payments shows an increase from 2011 to 2014. At that point, the combination of a nationwide battle against the opioid epidemic, which included the I-Stop legislation in New York, as well as stronger adherence to medical treatment guidelines, may have contributed to the significant decrease in payments for prescription drugs, down to the level of just under 10% in 2019. Taking a closer look at various prescription drug categories, we see that opioids on top are still the biggest contributor to drug costs. Several years ago, however, opioids represented 29% of drug costs. So the opioid share of total prescription drug spend decreased significantly to just under 22% in 2019. So this decrease in the opioid category is clearly a contributor to the overall decrease in the share of prescription drug spend out of total medical spend. So this concludes the presentation, and thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much, Steve. That was really informative. We do have a few questions. There's a question from one of our board members. Board member Linda Hall, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes, I will. I know in your presentation, there was another presentation that I actually watched, and there was just reference in the future that somehow the loss cost formula was going to factor in safety programs. You know, and I know in the past there have been some safety programs legislated, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Thank you very much for the question. Safety programs are clearly an integral part of of the workers' comp system and what premiums are being charged. And there are several credit programs for within the final premium calculation for employers that have implemented these types of programs. Obviously, as more employers implement those safety programs, they're getting credit for them. And hopefully, and what we see at least in recent years, is the loss amounts are starting to come down. So there's certainly a result, or I would say a positive result, in that there's lower losses, less frequency, less claim frequency in the system as a result of the implementation of these safety programs. And employers are appropriately rewarded for that. And it also affects the overall loss cost level as losses come down, and which resulted in, as you may have seen, some of the recent years, we've seen two consecutive, before this negative 1% indication that we saw this year, we had two consecutive years of double-digit decreases in the loss costs, which are in part attributable to some of those safety programs.
Okay, thank you so much. Great question. Thank you for the answer. I also have a question that I noticed, well, with the pandemic, it is very difficult to do business as usual, especially in our industry. One of the things that I noted you're doing is virtual audits, since in-person audits cannot be done. Just wanted to know how that's going, and just more generally, how you think the industry is adjusting. I guess a question for Jeremy.
So thank you so much. It's a very good question. So we've actually moved to virtual audits. It started with a temporary approval by DFS in the spring, and then actually DFS made that a permanent change to our manual. So going forward, which I think reflects really modern technology, convenience for both insurers and New York State businesses, and hopefully some cost savings. So it's going pretty well for the audits. Really, it's a back and forth electronically of payroll spreadsheets and communication with employers, and really no trouble thus far that we can tell. Our inspection program, we do inspect a limited number of New York State businesses each year. Has been on pause because of the threat, obviously the public health threat posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. But we are hopeful that in some time sooner rather than later, we will be able to get back to that.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Are there any other questions from board members? Okay. Hearing none, I just want to thank you both again for joining us today and for sharing an abbreviated version of the very important presentation of the state of the Workers' Compensation Board, or of workers' compensation in the state. Thank you so much for being here. Lastly, I will just need a motion to adjourn the meeting today. May I please have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Board. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
This is Frida Foster, Vice Chair. I move to adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Madam Chair, Board Member Martin Delan, and I second the motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any opposition? Hearing no opposition, all in favor say
Aye.
all right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye. Be safe.
Yeah.